Leland Vittert. Good evening. Thursday, we're going to all gather for a uniquely American holiday, my favorite holiday, Thanksgiving. And President Biden wants a win before we all go on leave for that long weekend. Let's think about the hot topics this year at the Thanksgiving table. Gas prices and the wild cost increases, how hard it is to get just about everything, what we like to call the empty shelves crisis here on the show, spiraling crime in America, race relations appear to be getting worse, the rise of China and its new hypersonic missile, the continuing crisis on the southern border. None of those conversations are good for the White House. And as a White House communications director once told me, if you lose Thanksgiving dinner, you're losing. So it's no coincidence that President Biden is strongly considering and might likely announce tomorrow a plan to deal with the number one issue on that list, gas prices, how much it's going to cost to get to grandma's house. Gas prices would go down if the president tapped the strategic petroleum reserves. In the last year, gas prices have gone up from $2.12 to $3.40. That is a 60.3% increase. The oil industry blames President Biden's environmental policies. Here's Daniel Turner of Power to the Future on the program last week.
He is the cause of this. We produce 2 million barrels fewer every day than we did just a year ago. And the reason why we produce so much fewer oil is because, yes, Biden has made it harder to drill.
Tapping the reserves are a short-term solution to long-term problem. And one of the three things the administration could do to lower prices in addition to opening up more federal leases for drilling. Tapping the reserves is also the quickest thing possible by lowering prices. All they have to do is flood the domestic market with cheap crude from government storage on the Gulf Coast. And when everything else on the Thanksgiving table will cost more than last year, most components to dinner are up double digits. A 15-pound turkey is up 27%. So lowering prices is helpful. The lone bright spot for the administration is the stock market. The Dow closed up again today. The market itself is on a tear. In fact, the market under President Biden is up 20.5% versus up 13.9% for the same time under President Trump. As the president himself will say, there is a bigger disconnect ever between Wall Street and Main Street. Tomorrow's announcement to try and lower gas prices would be aimed squarely at Main Street. Kelly Meyer joins us now from Washington, D.C. with how tomorrow might look. Kelly, good evening.
Good evening, Leland. Well, that's right. The White House is scrambling to do something to change the topic at the Thanksgiving table here. President Biden is reportedly considering tapping into that strategic petroleum reserve, an emergency stash of oil. The announcement coming as early as tomorrow, and it could mean as many as 35 million barrels over time. There's about 19 to 20 gallons of gas in one barrel. And the move comes as Biden is facing dwindling poll numbers over his handling of inflation today, defending it isn't just the U.S. facing a rocky recovery from the pandemic.
We know it's tough for families to keep up with the rising cost of gasoline, food, housing, and other essentials. It's not just an American problem. It's a worldwide problem.
And Leland, tomorrow the president is already expected to speak on the economy and on, quote, lowering prices for the American people. We're watching for this announcement then.
All right. So what kind of difference are we actually talking about at the pump before we're, say, going to Christmas? Probably too late for Thanksgiving.
Well, we talked with some folks and some sources here saying that this could mean 10 to 30 cents less a gallon at the pump from this move in the next 2 to 3 weeks. But that may come with some consequences for President Biden, because once he taps into this reserve, he may face backlash from OPEC, the oil producing nations in the Middle East. They could turn around and decide not to increase output. So if OPEC reacts negatively to this move from the Biden administration, we could see gas prices then go back up by Christmas. Leland?
Oh, there you go. All right, Kelly, thanks so much. Great reporting. We'll see you tomorrow when if the announcement happens. Few things can wreck a presidency like high gas prices. Jimmy Carter faced the problem, as did Barack Obama. Austin Goolsbee chaired the Council of Economic Advisors under President Obama, professor of economics at the University of Chicago, and joins us now. Professor, good to see you. We appreciate it.
Great to see you.
How is this desperation, would you say, or good policy?
I don't think it's desperation, but I do think it's temporary, as you described. I have been of the view that once the U.S. became a pretty significant petroleum producer, that the days of having the strategic petroleum reserve so full that they literally could not put any more oil in it, it probably didn't make sense, and we shouldn't run it that full. But this is just a big pool of oil. It's not producing in itself. Ultimately, this is a world commodity, and the supply and the demand is going to be determined on the world stage, not by what the U.S. does.
Reasonable people, though, could agree that the fact that the U.S. has cut production so significantly down 2 million barrels because of President Biden's policies, that's contributed to the rise in prices, right?
Well, I don't. The first part of that I agree with, that we are producing less. That you attributed that's from Biden's policies. Most of the industry analysts, I believe, think that has been due to the multiple years of rock bottom prices.
Yeah, well, it's more, yeah.
So that it wasn't economical.
Yeah, fair enough. It's more expensive to frack than it is to pump it out of the Middle East. That's probably one of the reasons we're seeing a boom now in West Texas again.
Yes.
We know that the Biden administration, progressives in general, view fossil fuels as the enemy, for lack of a better term. Fine. Shouldn't they view high gas prices in a sense as a success?
Some of them, I think, do view that as a success. I think even if you're on the view that we got to transition to lower carbon pollution, that doesn't mean you want to make the price go up all at once and have everyone invoke a massive transition cost. I think that's a little bit of a misnomer.
Yeah, fair enough. I'm interested as we think about sort of this on a larger scale, because we can all agree that the economic crisis of inflation is a huge crisis, as evidenced by the pain at the pump for President Biden. Lawrence Summers, who was also part of the Obama administration, has been on record saying that Build Back Better, the new spending plan, is going to only make inflation worse. Do you share that view?
Well, wait, no. Summers was of the view that the original rescue, the CARES Act under Trump, and then the rescue plan under Biden was too large and would create inflation. But when he was asked about Build Back Better, he said he viewed it as mostly irrelevant, that in total it was 1/10 the size in the next year of what the previous stuff was, so that it probably wouldn't increase inflation. And I'm kind of on that same spot. I think you can be for or against what's in the Build Back Better agenda. We don't know exactly what will be in the final bill.
Yeah, for
Depends
sure.
what Joe Manchin thinks. But I don't think it has that much to do with the next 6 to 12 months inflation.
Well, I guess let me ask it this way. The White House really went after Summers back in February and March over his comments saying that there was going to be this inflation on the horizon. That's now come true. Would you agree that the White House sort of owes Summers and folks like you who predicted the inflation an apology?
Well, no, I was more on the other side. I kind of had a bit of a public debate with Summers. I still think that this inflation, while higher than I anticipated then, is going to be proved to be temporary, because I think it's a supply shock driven inflation. And so when I look at Germany having the highest inflation in 29 years and China having its highest inflation in 26 years, and the U.S. having the highest inflation in 30 years, that to me, that all looks like it's of a piece, and that piece is not directly related to U.S. fiscal policy.
Big part of the Build Back Better plan, to a certain degree, arguably, as you point out, to what degree, is going to be climate change, somewhere around $500 billion to combat climate change in the broader sense. Again, Daniel Turner on what that means for the oil industry and for American consumers. Take a listen.
If you want to push a green agenda, you need two things to happen. You need to denigrate the fossil fuel industry. You need to make it the enemy, and that's what they're doing. And you need to scare people that the end of the world is very near, and that's what they do with COP26.
Back to sort of where we were, is there an economic reality to high gas prices that it's perhaps incongruent with the most progressive part of the president's agenda?
Because people are getting upset, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, certainly in the short run, it feels like for the progressives pushing alternative fuels that's coming into conflict with the political reality. I think you've got the second political reality that the linchpin vote here is Senator Manchin, who's from West Virginia, which is a coal state. So it's not in the fuel space, but in the power and electricity production based on coal. How much of the climate plan can survive the Senate, that part is also not clear.
Yeah,
the only thing I will say is we've seen over the last 10 years that some of these alternative fuels, solar, wind, and others, have actually gotten the economics of their costs down so low that in many places they're the most economical form of generating electricity. And we would have to see if a similar thing could happen on the fuel side.
As an economist, also, you have to have the historical perspective. How worried would you be if you were an advisor to President Biden that we're headed towards a Jimmy Carter-esque next 3 years?
Well, you'd have to be worried on a political front versus on an economic front. As I told you, my own view is that much of what's happening in inflation is coming from a supply constraint. That during the pandemic, people could not spend money on services, which is what we normally spend most of our incomes on. So we're having record-setting demand for physical goods in the United States and in every other advanced economy of the world, and the supply chain cannot handle that, and that's why we're getting inflation.
Well, so if the supply...
On the political front, I think they definitely need to be worried, because even if you're on team temporary, you think this is going to last for months. It's going to be till next summer before you start seeing relief, and that's not really on the political timetable that they're comfortable with.
Yeah, the short run, long run debate in economics does not necessarily fit the midterm election timeline.
Right.
Hey, Professor, it was great to see you. Thanks for the time, and happy Thanksgiving. This was great.
You too.
Thanks for watching. Click the red subscribe button below so you can get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.